Hello and welcome to Throwback Thursday. Yesterday we were talking a little bit about taking responsibility for your horse and for your horse training. And today I wanted to give you a couple of examples of why that's a good idea and of a rider that did take responsibility and a rider that didn't take responsibility, and see how those two scenarios worked out for those two different people. Now, the people I'm talking about are people that I've known over the past sort of 10 years, and they both ended up with really similar horses, really similar backgrounds. So let me tell you a little bit about the people. One we'll call Amanda. It's not her name, but that's what we'll call her. Amanda was a very novice rider. This was actually the first horse she'd owned. She'd done some riding lessons, but she'd never owned a horse before. And the other one we're going to call Jane, and Jane was a very experienced rider. She'd done quite a lot of showing. She'd been to the big shows, the Royal and all that sort of thing. Anyway, both of them, around the same sort of time, ended up buying horses, both chestnut mares, interestingly enough, around the age sort of 8 to 12 years old, and they were both stock horses. They came from really similar backgrounds. So both horses had done a bit of everything. So some pony club and some adult riding, some work on the farm, a little bit of showing, sort of nothing serious, but a little bit of everything. So what they were sold as good all-rounders, and they were also sold as quiet and easy to handle horses. Of course, surprise, surprise, in the horse world, that wasn't completely true. And the horses, well, really weren't that quiet once they got them home, and they found they weren't that easy either. Both horses had really similar issues. They were difficult to catch, which sort of made them a little bit difficult to deal with from the outset. And they'd probably be described as having some poor ground manners, so girthy and just didn't like being saddled up. Both of them had issues with the canter, so could pigger or butt going into canter, rushed into canter, were quite uncomfortable, it seemed, in the canter, and just difficult to get into canter. So cantering was a real problem for both of them. Also, they didn't stop well. So once they were cantering, they were hard to stop. And it was just amazing that these horses had such similar problems. Another one was neither of them floated. So I think they were pushed onto a float to get to their new owners, and when the new owners wanted to take them somewhere, they realised they didn't know anything about floating. So that was a major issue as well. So all of that together sort of was quite problematic. Now, Amanda, our less experienced or really novice rider, she said about it in a completely different way to Jane, who was much more experienced. Jane actually sent the horse out to a trainer, and that didn't go at all well. When the horse came back with all the same problems, only perhaps marginally worse, but also added rearing to the equation. And that's possibly because the horse was a little bit bitey, and I think maybe the trainer gave it a good old smack in the nose and the horse started to rear. So what happened was, when she'd just be walking the horse, leading the horse around, and the horse would think of biting her, and suddenly it's rearing and it looks like it's coming out of nowhere, but these things rarely come out of nowhere. So that actually just added to Jane's problems. So that was really problematic. She ended up selling that horse very cheaply, very quickly, and not very nicely. And I'm sad to say she's been through about 7 or 8 horses since then. Amanda was different. She took a really different tact, and she said, right, well, this is how the horse is behaving now, but I now own this horse, so it's my responsibility to do something about it. And she set off on a journey. She found me and she said, right, this is what I've got. This is where I am. What do I do? And I said, well, you've got the choice here. You either sell the horse and start again, like Jane did, or you step up and you take responsibility and you go through this journey together and you learn together. And I had an email this morning saying basically green on green, or inexperienced horse with an inexperienced rider is a recipe for disaster. And I think that's an awful generalization, and I don't think we should think like that, because it's not fair on horses or riders to put them into categories like that. And it's actually not the case. And Amanda demonstrates really beautifully how that's not the case. You know, she did step up, she took responsibility. And what happened was she took that horse right back to the beginning. And she said, right, I don't know any more than you know. So let's learn together and let's start at the very beginning. And so she started by learning about her horse's emotional level. She started by raising and lowering that horse's emotional level and really getting to know that horse's personality. Rather than just trying to force the horse into picking up the correct canter or whatever it wasn't doing right, not getting on the float or whatever it was doing, she actually analyzed it and sat down and said, okay, well, you don't want to do this. Perhaps you don't understand. Perhaps you're scared. Perhaps you're frustrated. Perhaps I'm not asking you in such a way that's making it any fun for you. You know, you're not engaged. Why aren't you engaged? Why can't we engage you? And what she found was this, what, you know, really had to be described as quite a bitchy chestnut mare, turned out to be the most magnificent horse. And it took her a few years to do it, but my goodness, you know, she really turned that horse around. And in the process, she turned herself and her riding and her understanding of horses generally completely around, quite amazingly. I had an email from her the other day, and this horse was, you know, really quite difficult. The last time I saw her, it was quite a while ago, but she's been a member of the online training. So I hear from her quite a lot on the email, and she writes to tell me how things are going. And they've been getting better and better. She's been taking the horse out to shows. She's been camp drafting with it. She's been going in hack classes and all of this sort of thing, which, you know, a few years ago was just never going to happen. So her riding has obviously really come along as well. But now she's got her son riding the horse as well, which is fantastic. And she now has a horse, and I always say this about those horses, that you have to really step right back to the beginning and relay those foundations. Those are the horses that make great horses, because you form such a bond with that horse and you have such an amazing relationship with that horse because you've been through all of that together. You can send a horse off to a great trainer and you'll get a good horse. You'll get a good horse back that, you know, is obedient to the cues and that sort of thing. But you won't get a great horse back. You have to make a great horse, because great horses are formed in your bubble of communication. A great horse is a part of you. A great horse isn't a great horse without you. And that's what makes the horse great. It's not just the horse that's great. It's you and the horse are great together. You're a great team. And you can only do that by training your own horse like Amanda did. So I look forward to helping you along your journey, training your own horse with the Kandoo Equine online training system. And I will see you in there soon. Thanks. Bye.